Welcome back to SharePoint Charts Complete Training, and we're moving on to the line chart today's session. This is a universally understood concept. Many of us learn about line charts in grade school. So this is going to be one you're going to want to use for sure, so that you can incorporate it into your sites and show trends and summary information. In our last training, we looked at how to aggregate data from dates, and that information would correlate well to the chart that we're going to work on in this training session. So let's go ahead and begin. So this is the template we're going to be using, and if you go in your lab practice content, if you go to the line chart section, there's a link to that. And this particular type of template is going to use a single row of data from SharePoint. First thing you need to do is go ahead and download the Excel workbook, and we're going to create our list from that. I've already downloaded it, and so I'm just going to go ahead and open up my Excel, and we'll create our list as a starting point. So this list for this one is called Wise Industry Monthly Sales. So here it is, and just like the steps we did in our preceding training, you're going to go to the Table Design tab and click on Export and Export to SharePoint. And then I need to paste in the URL of my SharePoint site. So just paste that there, and then I need to give it a list. We'll just match according to the name of the workbook. So I'll say Wise Industries Monthly Sales. That's it. Click Next. It just gives me a summary of the field types. That's exactly what we expect. We've got a title field and then a bunch of number fields. So just click Finish. Gives you a confirmation dialog, and you can close Excel. You're not going to need the workbook anymore at this point. So in SharePoint, we're going to have a new list that was just created. There it is, Wise Industries Monthly Sales. So we want to go to that. By default, when it imports from the Excel workbook, it's going to switch it into a grid edit mode. And you'll notice something in the URL. It has all items G, as in grid edit, at the end of it. And we want to turn that off. So I'm going to go to the gear and then go to list settings, and I'm going to change a setting here under advanced settings. And I want to turn off that quick edit properties, so that's under quick property editing, and we're going to say no, I don't want it to do that. We'll switch list experience to new. Okay, now we're back to what we expect. And then I like to have a view set up for the chart, so let's go ahead and do that next. I'll do save view as, and we're going to be doing line charts today, so I'll say line chart 1. I'm going to make more than one view, so I'll start with that. That'll just copy that view. Alright, and then what I also like to do is link to that view. If I edit this view, I like to get that friendly URL, so I'm going to just do that, hit OK, and I've got a link to this. So I'm going to start adding to these quick links tiles, and I encourage you to do the same. So just do add from a link, paste, add, and so this will be called line chart. And let's pick a line chart for our icon. Just typing chart, we'll search for that. There's line chart, select, and close and publish, republish. Just make it easier for me to get to this later. Okay, back to my line chart. Alright, so what we have here is our summary data. So in our last training, we looked at how you gather up this data. And this is an example of a type of chart that works from one single row of data in SharePoint. There are different types of charts that you're going to work with, and you want to be aware of that. And it will tell you that in the notes in the lower left when you're working with the template. So if you scroll down under every template, you'll see a notes section which will give you that information. So this type of chart uses this single row of data. Okay, when you first get to any of the chart templates, you should preview different themes. This just gives you an idea of the different kind of possibilities. And with the charting templates, there are 10 different themes loaded. And if you go through those, what you're going to see is that you can have a wide variety of looks and options depending on how you set your configuration. Now, everyone has different tastes and preferences when it comes to colors, fonts, settings, all of those type of things. You are going to be able to control that explicitly. So that's the first thing I wanted to call your attention to. Now, working on charts is a incremental process. So instead of trying to get all of your settings perfect all at once, what you want to get used to doing as a habit is making a couple of changes and apply your template, then make a couple more changes, apply your template, and just go back and forth. That way you can see those updates happen incrementally. That being said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on my configuration initially. I just want to get my chart going. The SharePoint field names need to match up. It just happens in the example, it matches up with the default fields that are shown here. So I can stick with this. Normally what you would need to do is adjust this SP fields. That tells it the number of columns that are going to be tracked, and then you would enter your field names. It happens that the Excel workbook that you loaded for your training just happens to have these exact matching field names, which are for the months of the year. So I'm good to go. I can go ahead and apply my template. So I just follow the instructions in the pop-up dialog, and then I can come over to SharePoint, and I want to go to the View selector, Format Current View, and I'll go to Advanced Mode, and then just select all and paste. And there you go. Hopefully you agree that's really fast, really easy. I really haven't done much of anything to get that initial template out the door. Now what you should do and get in the habit of doing is creating lots of views, because it's really simple and fast to do that. So anytime you have a view pulled up, you can do the Save View As option, and I can just keep making more and more views. And that lets you go back and forth between different views. So that's, of course, always going to be a good option. The next thing I'm thinking about is the size of my chart. Generally, I like to have that chart fill my whole screen. The other thing is, I don't want it to say my chart for the title. That's obviously wrong, so let's go ahead and correct that as well. So I'm going to go back over here. There is a tip in the instructions, and it tells you that you can reference a field using a special set of characters for that. So instead of it saying my chart, you can either type in an explicit title, or you can say, I wanted to show what's in that title field, which is what we're going to do in this case. So I adjusted that, and then let's go ahead and make that chart width wider, a little bit wider, and I'm going to make the height taller too. Now what's great is this preview window is showing me real time what it's going to look like. So even before you copy your template, you're going to have a really good picture of how things are going to be in SharePoint. So I just copy template, I can hit OK, and I will do Format Current View, just select all, I hit Control A and then Control V, one right after the other, and there you go, you see an adjusted chart, and you'll notice the title is corrected and also that the chart is larger. Now one thing you might know, there's a curve to these lines. That may not be your preference. It's one of the settings in the template which you can configure to your own preferences. So true to my word, I'm going to just keep making more views, make this line chart 3. We'll do another one, and we're going to adjust that setting. That setting is the line curve setting. So if it's a 0, it will be just straight edges. That's probably what we're more used to seeing, and then you can tweak it to get like a slight curve to that. So it's just according to your own preference. So I'll make it 0. Let's adjust some other settings as well. One thing you might notice, look at the bottom line of our line chart. It says 1200. It's decided to automatically make the bottom our lowest data value and the top according to our highest data value. More commonly, we're used to seeing the bottom origin be at 0, and it's very easy for you to switch that over. So we'll just go over here. That setting is under the min max. It's set to auto by default. If you switch it to manual, now you can explicitly define the range. I know in my data that should go up to at least 3,000 and an origin of 0. So I've corrected that. I've also adjusted the line curve. And just for fun, let's go ahead and do a different colored background. Okay, so that's just a slightly different colored background that was under BG gradient. I'll copy the template, and then I can come back over here and do format current view and save. There we go. So now you see the straight lines, and notice that the axis, it's set at 0 at the bottom, and that's generally more what people are used to. Now here's another thing that I notice. This is tracking sales numbers, so probably we'd like to see a currency symbol. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and put dollars in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the dollar amount under prefix. So I can just put a cash sign here, and you'll see in my preview that updates. One thing I'll note to you about the preview, it uses some dummy data here. So you'll see that under test data, and that's just for preview purposes. It's just throwing some dummy data into the chart just to help you see a sample. Okay, so just copy template, and I'm going to reapply that and paste. Now we've got those dollar amount symbols showing. Another thing we can adjust about this, and true to my word, I'm going to go ahead and make another one. Save view as line chart 4. The line and the points, I can change the color, I can change the shape of the points, I can change the thickness of the line. Lots of options on that line, which is great because after all, this is a line chart and that's where our eyes are going. We're looking at the line. So let's adjust some of those settings just to see what that can be like. So let's do this. Let's make the point bigger. So it's at 5 right now. All right, I made it much bigger, but that's just to illustrate the point that you can't adjust it. Point style. We can do all kinds of stuff. We can make that be a star. I guess it's more like an asterisk in that case. I can make it be all kinds of different things. So we got cross, triangle. Here, let's do triangle. And then how about the line width? There's a line width setting. I can make that line width thicker, and I can set the line color to whatever I want. Let's go with like a crimson color for the line. Another key thing that's off by default, you can actually let it show the values with a little label in your chart. Okay, so I've adjusted several settings. Let me go ahead and copy the template again, and we'll come back to SharePoint, and I'll just do format current view. And remember that keyboard combination, Control A for select all, Control V for paste, and save. And as I described, this is going to match up with the preview that you saw over in the template tool. So we've got the red line, it's thicker, it's triangles, and it has labels for the money on there. So lots of different ways that you can do this. Now your data points can be more than 12. In the template tool, it's going to allow you to have up to a total of 20 if for some reason you need more fields. But you should set that according to how many columns you're going to use over in your SharePoint list. Now the background is set under this BG gradient. There's lots of options. This is just giving you a bit of a twist. You can select none if you want to go for more of a conventional look. In that case, you would just go with a canvas background color. So maybe I don't want to do that gradient color look. Instead, I can go to this, and I could just set a solid background color. That's certainly an option instead of the gradient. And if that's true, you would just select none. And there's also an assignment for line gradient. So the amount of options is quite extensive in terms of what you can do. Another one we haven't looked at yet, you have the option to do a filled background. Now generally that's not the look I'm looking for. Now that's obviously a very overwhelming look right here. So if I was going to do that, for one thing I would set a very subtle color to what I'm charting, so it's not so loud. I would certainly not want to use labels. So some of these settings are not going to combine well with other settings. So you have to experiment and try different things just to see what you can come up with. So I'm going to turn off filled for now, and let's change the line color back. Or I'll just do something dark. We'll go with the dark gray. And let's change the point style back to our more conventional circle. And let's change the point radius down. Let's make it small again. All right, so now we're back to a more typical look. And let's look through and see if there's any other kind of settings. A lot of these are pretty intuitive. You can change the font size and color at the top of the chart. If you want to change the font family, that's another option for you. Maybe for whatever reason you want to have Courier in your chart. Whatever you like, adjust those settings and see what's going to happen. You don't have to get it over into SharePoint to know how it's going to look. You're going to see those updates happen real time in your chart control. So lots of options to play with, lots of things that you can experiment with. And then what's important is that we have the ability to create lots of views in SharePoint very quickly. And so instead of trying to use one view and just changing the settings in that one view over and over again, go ahead and copy the view and make many different views, and that way you can save those quickly. And so you can see the different iterations of the charting that I came up with. Those templates are saved per view, not for the list. So quite a lot of possibilities in terms of what you can do. And then I've got my default view, which is great because maybe I just need to go back and edit this data for some reason. Now, if you're stuck and wondering how to roll up your information to get these totals into this one SharePoint record, then you're going to want to take a look at and review the training that we did before this session, which is showing you how to get those summary totals into a single record. So that was covered in this training session number 2, prepare summary data, and then for date range related information, as in this case, because we're tracking by month, you would be using the method shown in the prepare date range data. So that's pretty much it. You've got everything that you need to work with that template tool. You do want to make sure you go through all of the training and complete everything as shown in the video and from the materials provided. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to be able to use some of these charting templates, especially as it relates to situations where you need to take a large set of SharePoint records and group them and total them to get those summary totals, as we're using in the case of this chart where we're doing a line chart from one SharePoint record. So that's it. You have everything you need in order to be able to do line charts. And next time we're going to move on to a different kind of chart. See you then.